3, 2, 1, away we go. All right, Dave, how you going, big fella?
Good, thanks, Jono. How are you, mate?
Fantastic, actually. Like, look, obviously, as you can see, I'm a little bit under the weather, but
it's mostly I can hear it.
Time rest for no man. Well, my sleep patterns would probably give anyone the impression that nothing is absolutely wrong with me, and this is my normal husky voice, like Sean Connery. That's probably the worst one. But anyway, man. So, explain your role in Devil May Cry.
Why don't you cast me? No, I'm kidding. I am the I guess I'm the lead male actor in Devil May Cry. Very humbly to be so.
Yep.
I play Ryan O'Connor, who's he's North Irish young man, tortured, and very very proud Irish man.
And you're stuck with that accent the entire way through the flick as well. So.
If I recall correctly, I badgered you to do it. Yeah.
The way I like to do it, and Luke's probably more well-versed than anyone in this regard, I just basically say, well, if that's your idea, convince me.
Yeah.
I'm open to just about anything, man, and if you can put in a convincing argument, I will listen to you.
Yeah.
And so that's when I have the meetings, for instance, with everyone on set. Like I was saying to Talia that I don't tolerate egos on I don't tolerate egos on set. That's the first one. But the other one is like, if you've got an idea, or if there's a continuity error that everyone's missed, which happened on the last day, if you've got an opinion, say something. So
yeah, totally.
Just run it through the appropriate channels though, because it's not like there's no bad ideas, but it's like I might have missed something. Chances are pretty high that I've missed something. So.
But I like that, man. It keeps everybody humble, I think, on set, and that's the biggest thing.
Exactly.
Especially when you're working, towards something that will take time. If everybody's like just grateful and stoked to be there,
So do you remember how we sort of started to interact, like, well, how our friendship, relationship, working relationship?
You and I?
Started? Yes.
Yeah, it was over a previous wasn't it a previous project, Chimera? Yeah, a previous script that we got talking about, and I read. And I liked your writing, and you seemed like a nice enough dude over Facebook. So I was like, we stayed in touch. And then when you called me, and I lived in Melbourne, I still on and off live all over the place now. I live in Canada, but
jet setting everywhere.
Yeah, man. But in that time I was living in the heart of Melbourne, and I just remember walking down the street along Gertrude Street having a conversation.
Oh shit! You remember the street name?
Yeah, man.
Nice.
Yeah, got a visual memory. I can remember all kinds of weird shit like that.
Then I got the conversation, and then you started hitting me back, and then like I'm not gonna. I give credit where I believe in giving credit where credit's due. So like Luke, for instance, did the poster, and like it's just
Luke's killer.
Photography, editing, bloody.
It's amazing where we did that photo shoot for it to like turn out, just so great.
Is it on a black screen in Luke's backyard?
Yeah,
and in his room,
living room. Yeah.
Where was I going with this? I sort of got a bit side. What we had a pretty decent preparation period, like where because we're putting on the accents as on a note from Angel, like I was like, well, this is the one thing that can really drop out sometimes, and it really takes the audience out of the story when someone's accent isn't there. So it's like, right, not only do you have to convince me that you can pull off that the accent is worth it, you have to actually convince me to pull it off and do it so right up to the end when we're about to start production. Like everyone had that same thing as well. Like they had to give me self-tests where you're testing the American accent because I didn't want to be in the hard situation of having to take out a good cut because the accent dropped out. It's the kind of things like, because you've been doing your own directing and editing lately too.
Yeah, and sometimes you do notice that stuff if it happens, if the accent's not all the way there, including myself with, I'm always working on my American accent. But yeah, for the Irish one, I knew it was something I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
So that I really believed we could do, and it's the most prep I've ever put into an accent for it short.
Yeah.
But obviously it's a short trilogy, so there's several films, but it was worth it, and I think I sent you.
You did.
I sent you a little something.
You sent me like a little 4 or 5 minute clip that I immediately thought, like, once I watched it, I immediately forwarded to Angel. I was like, yeah, we got the right dude. Like, he's putting in the work, because that's from my perspective anyway. Like when I like to. My work should speak for itself, and the effort, like whatever faults that may be in my filmmaking credentials or whatever, is so long as and at least fix them, but so long as it can easy to see that the work has been put in, then then I feel like I'm justified in saying to the actors, it's like, right, you got to work, man. Like, you want this role, you're working for it, and you're going to do exactly what I said. But we ran into each other at the Screen Queensland Invitational yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
That wasn't. I still can't believe. Not only did we get the front and center seats, but the funny story I like telling is like my phone went off. And
straight away.
Yeah, straight away.
And it was like, and it just, I knew immediately, like, I could have been at the back of the room and known whose phone that was, because it's like a death metal song, isn't it? It is.
I just wanted to say,
and I was like, oh, John.
Like real bellowy sort of thing.
And
like,
I was so tempted to lean over to you and be like, that's a carton, mate. You're buying everything.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
oh.
But, I mean, yeah, it was Screen Queensland put on by the Logies and SPA, the Screen Producers of Australia.
Yes. Really good panel too.
Great panel, man.
Actually, like a diverse
and
panel.
that's Channel 9 as well. Channel 9 were the ones that are like really being pushing for that.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I also think it's great that the Logies are up here, but having that kind of stuff in those conversations up here, man, I mean, you saw the turnout. Everybody was pretty pumped.
Well, the thing that I was probably most surprised about was that they talked about real shit that concerned the people in the audience. Like, we're all up and comers. Like, so, you know, we're all pushing forward in around a certain level, sort of thing. Like, but we're very slowly, but they were very, very forward about, we want you guys to do well because that means we do well. And it wasn't the superficial stuff that I was sort of expecting, because I hadn't, to confess, I hadn't really done much research into. I just wanted to get the Q&As and find out found out all the information I could. But it just turned out that, I don't know if you had this idea as well, but I felt that it's everything that I've been saying for the last 6 months. And it's like, I feel there's an upswing. I feel there's something turning.
There's a turn. Yeah, you feel it. I mean, Tidelands is like one of the obvious examples of that, which is a show picked up by Netflix by, you know, Brisbane-based film production.
Yeah, it was like Tracy Robertson and Nathan Mayfield.
Correct. Hoodlum.
Yeah, the chief executive and chief creative officers.
Yeah, so that's awesome. It opens doors. And yeah, you're right. Like, for the past 6 months, the writing's kind of been on the wall, and we've had lots of different big films coming. Even like Devil May Care is such a great example of being able to shoot Brisbane.
Yes.
And it to look like
anywhere else.
Like,
that was a huge thing. And there's one particular shot. It's a wide in the film, and I think you know exactly the one I'm talking about. Where it's like we've got the whole cityscape, and you guys are silhouetted, and it's just one of those we were able to tell a really good story, because I said to Luke, like, I want the city to be a character. I want the city itself to be a character in that particular part. But the things that they discussed on the panel were very. It was like, you know, there was a sort of there was a tone very much as like, if you're gonna do anything, it's now. Now's the time, because Netflix is putting another $8 billion. They made $4 billion off their last financial year. Apple I think is doing $4 billion, and then you got Hulu and all the others.
Stan. Stan, he openly said, like, they are looking for stuff and invited people to contact him.
Yeah,
like, where do you get that kind of like? Yeah, it's like, unbelievable. So
we both looked at each other and just like,
well, we've got some work to do, right?
Yeah, like we got work. We got to get our pictures ready. We got to get our Bibles ready. We got our fucking scripts ready as
Bibles,
well.
Lookbooks, all this stuff. Yeah, that was my question to the Hoodlum guys. Was like, you know, what else did you take in other than a strong script and a series treatment, and a Bible? And they're like, lookbook. I'm like, of course. Yeah. Of course, like
it's like going prepared and respect the people that are giving you that exorbitant. Like, what is an exorbitant amount of money? So let's say you're getting like I've said for a while, like, if you're getting $1 million, you're asking for $1 million for a feature film. What would you do for $1 million? How hard would you work? Oh, cool. Well, that's their money. That's their money. So you've got to earn that shit. But given the fact that you've got a very strong business background as well, mate. So where do you find that the business opportunities are going to be in the future, because you're headed off to Canada? Yes.
Well, that's a good question, man. I do see Canada being, like, you know, my home for the next 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
Not because I want to get away from Australia. If anything, like, the stuff that we just had, the stuff we've just made, makes me want to stay here even more.
Yeah.
Like, and it keeps pulling me back here in a good way. But I feel like the stuff that I'm going to learn in Canada is going to set me up, not only as a filmmaker and a businessman, like you say, but as an actor in a big way.
Well,
So-
yeah, and if you can if you can do the hard yards now, establish yourself with a base, like a solid base, and I guess like a caucus around there that you can base yourself, organize the projects to be shot in Australia, for instance. I mean, we saw the guys from Hoodlum, Tracy said that they base herself in LA, so they can bring the productions because that's where the meat and the veg happens.
That's it. And Canadian production companies are open to co-pros with Australia. They are. They're not being set up so much. I was actually a part of one late last year.
Yeah.
Australian filmmaker partnered up with a producer in Canada.
Yep.
And we made this very different type of film. It was fantastic. And yeah, that was exciting, and told me that those types of partnerships can be made internationally.
Tracy's doing it, like Vieira from I apologize if I mispronounced the name, but Tracy from Screen Queensland, like it actually feels from a perspective of someone who's really going to need help. Like it feels like they're, you might get a little something, and then you can build that little something into a bigger something after that. And like it does feel like
that's what they said happened with Harrow, right?
Yeah.
And that's something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's promising. I know they're doing the best they can, really.
Yeah.
With what they're given. So
you got the cuts and everything, but it seems to be a real push where it's like a certain prestige. Like they've realized we've had a prestige we used to, and then it sort of went by the wayside for a while. Like there wasn't enough attention paid to it, and it was like, well, how do you do that? Well, you fix it from the ground up, but you also need those tax offsets that came through for the bigger productions. So, and that's sort of filtering down. And like, I think one thing it's really going to do is just, it's not going to filter down directly. It's just all the indirect stuff that happens. Whereas like all that money came from like and Netflix is, like you said, they're looking into Australian content as well. They actually want Australian content that isn't made to look like it's been made overseas. They want Australian-looking content.
Totally.
And so,
CBS as well, man. They bought Channel 10, and they've got CBS On Demand, and they need local content as well.
Yeah, brilliant. So, anyway, mate, you've got a really cool entry point into the acting world. I've always loved this story, because it's quite serendipitous and sort of like how the magic just happens. Magic.
Yeah.
Just so can you explain it a little bit?
How like I got my first kind of sizable role. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I'm like yourself, musician.
Yep.
Playing in bands and things, and I was working as an architect in training. Going to become one, and just ended up on a set and loved it, and so started auditioning and things like that.
Yep.
And then and then what happened was a friend I made on one of these sets doing this very, very small micro budget feature was like, hey, you should come and audition for this thing up on the coast. It's a horror film.
Yep.
It's the director's third film, and it's looking pretty big. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I applied, and
who's a magical man who gave you that shot?
His name's Chris Sun.
Yep.
Yeah,
he's
Chris
got a
Sun.
new one coming out too.
Yeah, and good old Chris Sun's
out.
got the ball coming, and I keep bumping into people that have helped that film along.
Yes.
Not only crew, but also people that got behind it financially when they needed that extra push.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited. I've seen a pre-screening of that film, and they had a successful premiere, and it's off and running.
Yeah, from the trailer, like I think I'm objective enough to say, like, you can learn from things, but I think, given the story of Ball, like, and how close it came to falling apart, like really, and then they pulled it together, and it looks good. It looks really good.
I mean, it's just of course it does, and that's the thing is like that's such an example of where a film can have legs, and even then, like, you just have to hustle it over the line. You just have to. But I don't want to brush over the story. Chris, sorry. I jumped in and when I went to audition, I took the guitar, which was my background, having a guitar.
Yeah.
And something about it just resonated with Chris, and he loved me, and he said, mate, that's fucking unreal.
Yeah.
And he just loved it, and he called me up that night and messed with me a little bit over the phone. Then he's just like, no, you got it. And I was like, amazing. So that was 5 months into acting, and I was just like, it just blew me away. So I went out with some friends and celebrated, and just from there I tried to be as grateful as possible, because it's not often that stuff happens.
Yeah, even improv some lines on set as well. That was a pretty ballsy move, and then that sort of stuck.
Yeah, there's improv lines all through that film. Some that from myself, but mainly from Sam Coward and Dean Kirkwright just having a lot of fun.
Good with names, aren't you, mate?
Yeah. Those boys were great, and Sam Coward called me the Ginger Wolverine.
Yes.
On camera, and I owe that to him because it's a nickname that's stuck, and it's not exactly a bad one. So.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to oh god, no, definitely sort of like went off into my own little head for a second.
Yeah, that's podcasting, man.
Yeah, that's not getting edited out though. So, but we'll go to an easy top 5 movies, and if you can, top 10 movies. So, I've got my list down.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Because everyone's like, "What's your top 5?" I was like, "Well, I'm so glad you asked."
Yeah. There are some that you know when you're just like, that's one of my top 10. That's one of my top 10.
Yeah.
So my top 10 is probably like 20 long.
Yeah, go for it, man.
But you know what? I mean, I'll just to list a few from like a classic like Die Hard. I love from like start to finish. It's great. It's a Christmas film. In case people didn't know that, it's a great Christmas film. In terms of comedy, love Hot Rod. I just love that. It's so pulled back, simple. Like it's so basic and simple and. Just a great film, start to finish.
I'm the only one who parties.
No, I know for a fact you do not party. It's so good. Yeah, it's very quotable. I love those films that are so quotable, like 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street for that matter. But also, like in terms of drama, I love like Blood Diamond. It's like a really cool film that just like addresses political stances and shines a light on the stuff like the child soldiers in Sierra Leone, and that stuff I love. And then I just love the delivery of the main actors. All three are just phenomenal.
Well, did you sort of use Leonardo as a sort of motivator for the accent? Like obviously he's South African in that flick, but like that was definitely a step away from him.
I mean, I used him as an example in a way that some South African people listen to that and say, well, that's not really a South African accent. It is, but it's like it's a little bit pulled back.
Yeah.
For the same reason. Right. For the same reason, I didn't go like so North Ireland, like so far that into Belfast that you couldn't understand because of all the little.
What did you do for your preparation for the accent?
Great question, man. Well, first of all, I watched a fair bit of Irish content, including The Fall. If you haven't seen The Fall, man,
I haven't.
It's a great series, and it's got I think his name's Jamie Dornan from 50 Shades of. You don't have to watch that one.
All of them.
But he's phenomenal in this. Yeah, that was when I was like, dude, that guy can act.
Interesting.
And he's got a great accent. So just watching a lot of Irish content, and then I had a couple of friends, including our very own Guy Williams on this, who pulled some strings and had a friend with a very thick accent record all my lines for me, so I could listen to them over and over again.
And he had a very deep voice too, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, which I worked on lowering my voice a bit with a lot of training and things, but there's only so much you can do in such a short amount of time. And then it was a lot of, I guess, drilling and practicing whenever I was speaking to Mel. Yep. My wife.
You guys.
My wife.
You guys Skyped.
We did. We Skyped consistently. And so I was always in accent when I was talking to her. So it felt quite natural. And then I'd spend at least one day a week. And then I'd spend at least one day a week in accent as well. Yeah. So usually like a Sunday where I'm not at work. And I'm not, I'm kind of going to the shops and I'm around my house.
You're just talking to people, sort of. Like around the thing, like. And but anyway, so we'll get back to the top movies as well, because like I love this tangents can go on. So, but yeah, so other great movies.
Other great movies.
Because you got action. What about sci-fi? All that jazz?
Well, superhero. I mean, I can't go past that genre because I'm a huge fan, and you know me, I'm obsessed with the DC Rebirth universe and the stuff they're doing there, and Arsenal, who's in that.
It's even got a nice little name, does it? The DC Rebirth universe.
Oh yeah.
Oh, because I'll just a quick aside first before I'll let you obviously let you go on, but like I like to say that the DC universe is like M. Night Shyamalan. I'll forgive you for everything bad, just so long as you get it right from here on in. I don't care, just get it right because you got the stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some people didn't appreciate Justice League. I enjoyed it. You know, I enjoyed it, and there were parts of Batman vs Superman that I enjoyed, but I like the Rebirth universe, which is like the DC Rebirth universe, which is like what they're making now, Titans,
Yep.
Doom Patrol, and for myself, I like Arsenal, who's the Red Arrow in this
right.
universe, and he's just got like such a better like arc, and
Yeah.
it's definitely a goal I've set for myself.
Do you mind explaining what the arc is like? And why it interests you so much?
I mean, to mention a few bits from his story, like he goes very much into addiction and addiction to heroin, and
Right.
he has
This isn't a comic book, right?
yeah.
Far out.
Oh yeah, it's pretty full on. Yeah.
Nice.
They do allude to it, like you don't necessarily see too much like graphic drug use, but it's very much there. And he kind of goes off the rails and finds out he's a clone. And yeah, and like it keeps going. Like it keeps going. Like he has a relationship with like a female former villain as well. They have a relationship. They have a
Not
daughter.
surprising. Not surprising.
It's like it's so good, and there's so much like texture to it, and I'm just like that's just not covered in the Arrowverse.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which Arrow's a great show, but it doesn't. It's about Arrow.
Yep.
The story is the Green Arrow, not
Yeah.
the Red Arrow. So, yeah. But what I was gonna say is that what I do love about the DC universe is like Dark Knight, The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
That film is 10 years old now.
The benchmark.
The benchmark, like 10 years old now, and it's still so good.
Well, that sort of raises a really good sort of question what do you think that, because obviously Dark Knight changed everything for a long time to come. What do you think they missed? Because I've got an answer.
What do they think they missed?
What do you think? What, not Dark Knight. What do you think that the sort of almost the copycats, I guess they'll definitely try to go
see.
for a look, but there's a soul to Dark Knight that wasn't just about the tone.
No.
It wasn't just that.
No, it wasn't. I mean, it's everything from the get-go of like choosing to shoot it on IMAX.
Yes.
Is just like bang, it hits you, like you know that you're watching something quite special and
Pay
unique,
attention.
you know, and they set that tone so early. I mean, and also like Heath Ledger's Joker, it was just that level that we've never seen before.
Yep.
I think there have been amazing performances like that since.
Yep.
But I think his just raised the bar for
Benchmark.
everybody. It just raised the bar for everybody. And now I set that bar for myself, even in auditions.
Good.
If I can get there, you know, which I, you know, push myself to get there.
Yeah, it's like, you want to be one of the greats? Well, start looking at what they're doing.
That's it. Even
And
if
they
it takes
they
decades.
throw themselves into it. So,
That's it.
mate, we're out of time. So
Oh, is that it?
that's
it.
about it, mate.
I had
so,
a blast.
mate, it's been absolutely amazing as always having you, man. Like, we'll probably probably do some more in the future depending on how these things go. So
Sounds good, man. Well, I feel like DMC is going to go pretty well, and I'm excited
Man.
to see it all. And
I don't know what's going to happen. Like, it's one of those weird stages of flux where you just sort of I know what it is, but I don't know what it's going to be.
sometimes we don't know yet.
That's the best part of life
Best-
right now. Like, I
best
don't
part of
know.
what we do.
Yeah, mate. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, John.
Cheers.
Appreciate it, man.
Alrighty.